I talk about it a lot on this show, I think, or in other interviews, is the fact that in mathematics, we honor our Nazis, that there were Nazis who contributed major insights. And it doesn't mean that they're not sons of bitches, but part of them that contribute mathematical and physical insight is not compromised by their goddamn evil Nazism, those fuckers, right? Okay. So the ability to divorce, to some extent, the human, you don't have any choice in mathematics. If somebody finds something essential and that person happens to be a son of a bitch, you don't have the right to edit that person out of history because it's inconvenient for you that happened, right? So I think that the moral failings of the people who do the teachings should be assumed by the students. Now, the key question is, do those moral failings compromise, let's say, the teachings themselves? In some cases, they do. Particularly, it comes from a point of sanctimony. If the teacher has not struggled as much as the student, then in fact the relationship would be more profitable if reversed.
But I think it matters a lot. So here the theoretical practical divide is really helping you out, because I think that mathematics is very squarely theoretical. And the more we move towards the theoretical, the easier it's going to be to make that kind of divorce. A lot of people would find it harder with music. My mom is very torn about Wagner. For me, the very hardest case, and it's one that I personally struggled with, is Aristotle. So I think that Aristotle's views on like women and natural slavery are deeply embedded in his ethical theory. So I don't think that they're like some kind of little extra bit that you can just ignore those chapters of the
there are
politics.
ways in which something is infected with a problem and you have to refactor the teaching.
It's not just that. It's even connected to what's good about the teaching. There were years when I didn't teach it for this exact reason. Like maybe it's just morally corrupt and we shouldn't teach it. I came to think differently about it. But my point is, the question of like, how should we deal with the kind of ethical infractions of people who have something to teach us, I think has to be combined with the question, what kind of thing do they have to teach us? How theoretical is it? How practical is it?
Are they the reliable or the unreliable narrator? That's another question.
Right. I mean, in philosophy, the question of reliability is almost given that you...
No, as a literary device. In other words, are they speaking to us in a way in which we can rely upon their words, or do their words, in fact, tell us that they, in fact, have a hidden truth?
Right. And like in some sense, like with Aristotle, it's like, we know he's not reliable. Like we know it. And yet, there's insights from him that I think we don't have another source. And so it's like, so for me, that was like a deep tension. That's in a way harder than the Nazi mathematician case. But I don't think that there's a single answer here. Like, that is, I think that the theoretical practical divide makes a big difference. And in a way, the Nazi mathematician case is too easy.
Okay, should we tear down the Arch of Titus that celebrates the sacking of Jerusalem? Stood there for a while.
So you asked Rabbi Wolpe this question too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have a view about it, but I also, like, the question, that's a very different question, right? Because that's not a question about there's some knowledge and then there's the source of that knowledge. We have a different set of questions about cultural artifacts and their history and what they mean. Like, I guess one thing that to me is important in asking myself that question is like, about this sort of question, like, it's why I raised the Aristotle case. It's a kind of faux deliberation that I would be engaging in, because no one is ever going to come to me and be like, should we tear this down?
No, I'm willing to start this campaign because I'm really getting tired of people saying that you cannot teach.
But you think it should be torn down?
I'm willing to entertain the extension of your ideas until you start to recognize here's what I'm having a problem. I'm an incredible hypocrite. Okay. And the reason I've chosen hypocrisy as a life strategy is that it offered the greatest benefits per unit of responsibility of all major philosophies. Right. Okay. I'm always troubled when people tell me that hypocrisy is terrible. Now, I struggle to minimize my hypocrisy.
So you don't think it's okay? You wouldn't struggle to minimize it?
Well, the id within me struggles to maximize it because like what a great deal, right? But the supervisory capacity within me is sort of, it's an embarrassment of riches by embracing hypocrisy that, the world becomes your candy store. So that
distinction between the id, I'm sorry to interrupt, but between the id and the, like, that's one of those faux distinctions that I don't think you have a right to, in the sense that I think you're one person and you make decisions.
Oh, you dear sweet child.
So it's like you struggle with your own hypocrisy and you try to minimize it because you think there's something wrong with hypocrisy.
I don't love my hypocrisy in one region of my mind. In other regions of my mind, I certainly enjoy my hypocrisy. I love steak dinners. And if I actually think about what veal is, it changes the enjoyment of veal, because veal is a pretty sick thing to really take pleasure from, to be blunt. Right. And so there's this issue, and I bring this up as in Cambridge, Massachusetts, there's a store in North Cambridge. I think it says like fresh killed poultry. It's just there it's advertising what it is. And if you're buying from that store, you're pretty much not going to have the shock when you actually think about what it is that you're consuming, because you bought it with that kind of thought in mind. Right. So there's this issue about, obviously when I'm saying that I'm a hypocrite and that I've embraced it as a philosophy, there's a playful aspect to it, which is that I'm recognizing that most people don't see their own hypocrisy. They're structured to see it in others and not in themselves. That's a very easy teaching, to just walk around watching for your own hypocrisy and then, kind of make yourself sick before pointing the finger at other people. What is very odd to me is how few people are aware of how deep their own hypocrisy is. And then to lead a naive rallying cry of, I can't believe this hypocrisy in other people. It's shocking. To not have an idea of what baseline hypocrisy is based in yourself seems a bit rich.
I think you're the true crusader against hypocrisy.
In some weird way, but it tends to be institutional hypocrisy. In other words, the thing that really bothers me, if we had a 2x2 grid, there's individual versus individual conflicts, there's institution versus institution. What I really detest is institutions against individuals. Mm-hmm. Institutional hypocrisy, the jackboot of the institution on the windpipe of the individual, is the thing that is so offensive to me that I'm pretty consistent that that's what I fight. So I always try.
What if the institution is right and the individual is wrong?
Well, then I don't view that as being
That's not one of the cases.
It's not one of the cases. Okay. What really bothers me is the institution using institutional power to humiliate, to destroy the reputation of the challenging individual who's making an excellent point on behalf of other individuals, right? There's certain institutional versus individual games, Goliaths against Davids. And when I'm up against that case, I'm particularly animated, having turned down opportunities to behave within the institutional structure. I'm pretty sure I really care about this case.